Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for all the civil services examination preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant examination. What we will try and understand are some of the important articles from the Hindu which can be important from your GS paper 1, GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 perspective. Let's get started and try and understand some of the important articles that are in news today. The first article is with respect to GS paper 3, which is your environment and ecology. The article here is speaking about protecting the biodiversity of the northeastern part of India. What is this article speaking about? The article here is primarily giving you an idea that development and sustainability will have to go hand in hand. When development is at the cost of environment, what we could see is disastrous consequences. So it is requesting and also giving a way forward as to how we need to approach, ensure that what we have is sustainable development. Let us try and understand what is the author and the article trying to explain. The point that we have to understand is the importance of the northeastern part of India. When we speak about the northeastern part of India, it is a region which is known for its forest cover. It has a lot of biodiversity. There is a lot of species that are present in this part, and when we have the forest cover, it basically means it is catering to multiple advances. What are these? One, there is biodiversity. So we have to safeguard the biodiversity. Second is with respect to the forest cover. When we have the forest cover, what is it able to do? It is able to mitigate the impact of the climate change. How? Through the carbon sequestration. Because of the huge cover of the forest, it is able to suck the excessive carbon that is present in this part and in and around that particular region, and is able to safeguard the environment as well. And when there are excessive forests, this will also help in generation of the rainfall, and at the same time it will also provide other ecosystem services as well. For example, tourism. For example, you have a couple of trees in that particular area. This will also provide agricultural opportunities. This will also provide other related opportunities as well. So forest cover in its own region will have its own share of importance. So the article goes on to say Northeast India is a greenbelt region due to its abundant natural resources such as oil, natural gas, minerals and also fresh water. The Garo-Khasi Jaintia Hills and the Brahmaputra Valley are some of the most important biodiversity hotspots. So we discussed about the importance of the Northeast region, and it clearly emphasizes that the Brahmaputra Valley also happens to be a biodiversity hotspot. Northeast India is industrially backward. Deforestation, floods and existing industries are causing serious problems to the environment in the region. Despite its importance, what we are significantly seeing over the past few years have been growth, development of tourism. What we are seeing is construction projects that are coming up. We have hydroelectricity projects that are coming up. We know for the fact that one of the reasons as to why Uttarakhand is facing a lot of issue is because of the hydroelectricity projects. Similar such projects are also being developed in the northeastern part at the cost of the environment. So the problem being that environmental sustainability is not taken into picture, but what we are focusing is on extreme tourism, construction projects, infrastructure projects. This is ultimately leading to a chaos in the form of environmental depletion. An environmental assessment of the Northeastern Rural Livelihood Project undertaken by the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region lays out that Northeast India lies within ecologically fragile, biologically rich, highly prone to climatic changes, located in the Transboundary River Basin, and it also has both flora and fauna. But of late, this flora and fauna, the animal and the plant kingdom, is coming under threat. Why? That is because of deforestation, that is because of mining activities, that is because of quarrying, shifting cultivation and so on. So this northeastern region, which has the important species, biodiversity richness, is now under threat primarily because of deforestation, tourism, construction and other human related activities. So what are the laws that we currently have? We have two types of laws. One is with respect to the special laws. The other is the general laws. What are the special laws? Let's say for example the Wildlife Protection Act, which has a specific reference only to the protection of the Wildlife Protection Act. We also have the schedules as well. We also have the Air Pollution Prevention Act, Noise Pollution Prevention Act. So all those that are special only with respect to a specific area are called as special laws, which we already have in terms of the environment. Thus a considerable number of environmental laws are already present, and we also have general laws as well. What are these general laws? Laws which are embolded in the Indian Penal Code. Indian Penal Code happens to be a general penal law. So sections 268 to 290 of the Indian Penal Code basically deals with pollution of land, air and water. So what did we discuss as of now? We discussed the importance of the northeastern region, the importance of the forest cover. We also discussed why northeastern region is important and the facing threats with respect to deforestation, quarrying, so on and so forth. We also discussed the laws as well. But what is the major concern right now? The major concern is we have the northeastern part of India. We have the 6th schedule in the Constitution of India. What is the 6th schedule? Which are the states that are part of this 6th schedule is what you have to put on the comment section. So we have the 6th schedule of the Constitution. This 6th schedule of the Constitution gives autonomy to the district councils. So these district councils, what do? Since they have the autonomy, they have given leverage for the developmental activities. They give more importance to the developmental activities at the cost of the environment. So continuous development of tourism related projects have been taking place, and as a result what these district councils have is independent autonomy. Because of this independent autonomy, they have been able to give permission for all tourism related projects. Since they have been giving permission to these projects, what is causing a problem is the environment. And one such example the author takes into picture in this particular case is with respect to the Umiam Lake. So remember, we have one of the lakes in Meghalaya. Where is it? It is in Meghalaya. And where is this Umiam Lake? It is in the state of Meghalaya. So this happens to be one of the lakes, and this is to the north of Shillong, which happens to be the capital of Meghalaya. This was created back in the 1960s by damming the Umiam River. So what is that you have to remember? We have the Umiam Lake, we have the Umiam River. What is it? It happens to be a lake in the state of Meghalaya. What was the original objective of creating this lake? The original objective was to store water for the hydroelectric power generation. And with this particular project, it also has its own share of advantages as well. What are the advantages? One, it provides downstream irrigation. As you can see, it is to the north of Shillong, so it provides downstream irrigation, it provides fisheries, and it also provides drinking water facilities to the people in and around that particular area. But what we are witnessing of late is excessive pollution and silting in this part of the lake. And as a result of excessive pollution, because of deforestation that is taking place, because of dumping of the waste that is taking place in this particular area, the efficacy and the value of this river and the lake has been dropping over a period of time. Since there is silting activities that are also taking place, what is the problem? The amount of water retainability in this part of the lake is also dropping over a period of time. So this article currently goes on to say, since there has been a lot of autonomy that is being given to the district council, they are not being able to regulate the special and the general laws. What is the only option that is available is to knock the doors of the judiciary. So in this particular backdrop, public interest litigations have been filed. In fact, there have been couple of cases where suo motu cognizance have also been taken by the judiciary as well, primarily to take care the northeastern part of India. So what we have is a recent landmark judgment with respect to cleanliness of Umiam Lake versus state of Meghalaya, where the division bench of the High Court has said that in the absence of any other employment opportunities and in the name of promoting tourism, the natural beauty of the state should not be destroyed, says the Meghalaya High Court. So what it goes on to say is that we have to take care of our water bodies, we have to conserve, we have to protect, we have to maintain the cleanliness of these and ensure that what we have is sustainable development. Without these aspects, if we are only going by the construction, deforestation and only man-made activities, the forest cover could go down. This will ultimately harm the northeastern part of India and India eventually, says this article. So what is that we have to do? In order to overcome all these issues, what we have to do is come up with some preventive action as well as proactive approach and reactive approach as well. What is this proactive approach? Proactive approach is an approach which we shall be taking into picture even before a particular event occurs. What is reactive approach? Reactive approach is an approach where we come up with a policy initiative after a particular incident has occurred. So we have to take care of both proactive and reactive approach. So what are the measures this article goes on to say? Central and state governments have to develop infrastructure, generate revenue and create employment through sustainable policies. However, we have the negative list in the Northeastern Industrial Developmental Scheme. It is a step in the right direction. So we already have some activities which are barred. This is a proactive approach. So we envisage that there could be issues in the near future because of the environmental discrepancies. So we have already taken an approach to prevent such activities. So what is this negative list? For example, you're not supposed to dump the waste into the water. This is one such negative list. So negative list basically says that under this particular law, these kind of activities should not be taken up. So a negative list is given under this Northeast Industrial Developmental Scheme where such activities should not be taken up, so that what we have is the sustainable development. This is the negative approach. What is the this is the negative list, which is called as the proactive approach. What is the reactive approach? Reactive approach basically means that you have the National Green Tribunal which has imposed about 100 crore on Meghalaya state government for failing to curb illegal mining in 2019. That is, when an incident occurs, then you take an action. Which is the statutory body that we have? We have the National Green Tribunal. It happens to be a statutory body. It happens to be a quasi-judicial body. So this body feels that the mining activities should have been regulated by the state government, but the state government was not able to do so. So in order to teach a lesson to the state government, let us impose sanctions, let us impose a fine, let us impose a penalty. So this is a reactive approach. So a reactive approach is an approach which happens after an incident has occurred, which basically means that it is a reactive approach. When it proactive approach, we envisage, we envision, we think of the future, and before a particular event occurs, we take steps. That is what is called as proactive approach. And at the same time, the author also goes on to say that the Act East for Northeast policy should not only include trade and commerce, but also the preservation of environment and ecology. So what is this Act East policy? Earlier, what we had was Look East policy at the time of Narasimha Rao government. So the Narasimha Rao government came up with the Look East policy, but with the Modi's government, what we have is the Act East policy, which means we will be interacting with couple of Southeast Asian countries. So as and when we speak about trade and commerce with Southeast Asian countries, for example Myanmar, Thailand, so on and so forth, we should also put out a perspective that we will also take care of our environment. A proposal has to be made to these countries so that we also take care of the environment. Added to it as source of additional information, what we have is the 15th Finance Commission recommendation. The 15th Finance Commission recommendation also takes into picture what is called as the forest and the ecology, which means to say that if there is a particular state and the state has a forest cover, a lot of forest cover, they cannot take up developmental activities. They want to create employment opportunities. They also want to ensure that people are taken into picture. They also have dreams and aspirations as well. So what do? They generally start depleting the forest cover, felling of tree takes place, deforestation takes place, we enter into the forest area. but forest cover is required for you, me, all of us. So what does the Finance Commission do? In order to protect these, extra amount will be dispersed from the central government funds to the state governments. This is what is called as forest cover maintenance. So you maintain the forest cover in that particular area. The money that is required will be provided from the coffers of the central government. That is, a certain amount will be divided between the central and the state government to the Finance Commission. So the Finance Commission has also taken measures where it has said forest and ecology will be taken, for example, with special emphasis to northeast and so on. And finally, what we have is called as the nature economics. What is it? This is another word for the sustainable development, which means as much as we take care of the economics, nature also has to be taken into picture. So what we require is sustainable development, says the author. So all that we have to do, yes, environment has to be taken into consideration. Development is a need of the hour, but this development has to go hand in hand with sustainable development and natureomics, which means we require economics and at the same time we have to take care of the nature, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article is important from your science and technology perspective, which is your GS paper 3. The article here is speaking about two important concepts. One is what is called as Deeptech, the other is software as a service. Let us try and understand what are these articles. The first important point that we have to understand is with respect to what is this deep technology. There are two types of technology. One is what is called as deep technology. The other is what is called as shallow technology or the general technology. What is this shallow technology? Let me explain what is the shallow technology and then come to deep technology. When we say shallow technology or we say something like the general technology, these are the technology, these are the projects, these are the implementations or the innovations that have been taken up by an engineering company or a startup, a technological startup. This shallow technology basically means the amount of information that is going into the development of this particular software or the technology is not that great in comparison to the deep technology, which basically means when a particular company comes up with a technology, it is easy for another company to replicate the same process, which means a particular company is coming up with a plan, it is coming up with a technology, it is coming up with an idea. This particular idea can be replicated easily by another company. Let me give you an example. We have Uber. Uber happens to be one of the technological ideas where you would be able to stay at a particular place and also book a taxi cab. But this idea was easily implementable. We also have Ola, so on and so forth. So for example, you also have Zomato. Zomato's alternative would also be Swiggy, so on and so forth. So an idea or a particular plan which can be easily implemented by another software firm or a company is what is called as the shallow technology or general technology. What is deep technology now? Deep technology is a technology where a startup or a company has come up with this particular idea where it is not that easy for another company to replicate. It requires years of dedication, years of manpower, years of planning, years of spending time on a particular technology, the nuances of it, and ultimately develop a technology and an outcome from that particular project. So when we speak about deep technology, it takes years of experience, and at the same time it can also be a new startup coming up with a particular program, but it is not easy for another company to replicate. But if it is a shallow technology, it is easy for a company to replicate and they can also come up with other similar projects. The examples of deep tech technology includes big data, nanotechnologies, blockchain, quantum computing, robotics, advanced material science, photonics and electronics, biotechnology, vision and speech algorithms, language processing, so on and so forth. So all these companies that are part of deep technology come up with new projects, new innovations in such a way that others companies will not be able to replicate. We will have a real-time instance, real-time problem. They will be addressing these real-time problems so that a problem in the society is ultimately addressed by this deep tech technology. So what are the differences between the deep technology as well as general technology? One is with respect to the idea, scientific discovery or innovation. With respect to deep technology, it is just business innovation. What is the qualification? People who have advanced mechanical tools and also knowledge can be part of deep technology. Typically postgraduates and PhDs, often self-educated programmers, new computer science graduates can take up general technology or the shallow technology. The age of the founders will usually be 35 and above, usually 20 to 25 years old. Gestation period for a particular product is typically above 5 years, from months to a few years. Testing, multiple in-depth trials take place in deep technology, rapid reiteration on the go. So you know that particular product, you immediately start pushing that particular product, and this will require regulatory approval when it comes to deep tech, and it may not necessarily be regulated by the government. Regulations are required, but generally they may also not require the regulations as well. So what are the characteristics of this deep technology? There are three attributes to it. One is with respect to the impact, second is with respect to the time and scale, third is with respect to the large investment needs. So if we are speaking about deep technology, it has three parameters or the characteristics which it has to fulfill. What are these? One is with respect to the impact. The amount of impact it is having on the society is to be taken into consideration. They have a big impact and can generate enormous economic value, often disrupting entire sectors, making other businesses irrelevant or creating their own markets. So the impact that when this deep technology comes into picture is too huge. For example, let's say a particular company is employing about 1 lakh people, and then all of a sudden there is one automation tool that comes into picture. It disrupts this entire market. For example, a man would be able to do a certain kind of job within a specific period of time, but there is a robot that comes up. The robot is able to replace another man. So what a 10 people can do, one single robot can do. So it is disrupting the market. That is what is called as impact. On one side, it is giving a significant impact, and at the same time it disrupts other businesses as well. It also disrupts other industries as well. That is the impact. Second is with respect to development. When it comes to the deep technology, as I explained, it takes large number of years to come up with this particular product. Developed from years of research and lab testing, deep tech innovations take time to move from basic science to technology that can be applied to actual uses. And finally, large investment needs. Funding is a challenge for a majority of deep tech companies, as their infrastructure, skills and resources require substantial funding capacity over an extended period of time. It is not that this particular innovation can come up in a day or two. It requires constant upgradation, innovation and also meticulous planning as well. In order to overcome all these issues, what you require is large amount of investments, and when such investments are made, you have achieved your success path, you have a desired outcome from that particular product. These companies also go into intellectual property rights, which means to say they may also go for patenting, which means these are also the advantages of the deep technology. So what are the advantages of deep technology? One, it disrupts the entire system. It brings in a new value addition. It creates a new product. Let's say we are able to have environmental disasters that are taking place. They are coming up with a product to prevent this environmental disasters. So they add a significant value. There is employment opportunities. There is new technology, and this technology is here to stay as they disrupt the entire system. Now, if we have to look into the data with respect to India, India had over 3,000 deep tech startups dabbling in new technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, big data, quantum computing, etc. At the end of 2021, Bengaluru accounts for 25 to 30% of India's deep tech startups, followed by Delhi NCR, Mumbai. Overall, the share of deep tech startups in India's overall entrepreneurial ecosystem stands at 12% now. 1 in 3 of India's deep tech startups have applied for patents, while 23% of the funded companies cater directly to the consumers. However, there are some challenges as well with respect to the deep tech technology. What are the challenges? Funding is the major problem. Seed capital is the major problem. If I am coming up with a particular product, let's say I am a startup, I am starting off with a startup. So what I require is the seed capital, the initial investments that flow into a particular company, but I do not have much of the contacts that I do not have? How do I convince the people that this is a product which is going to give them returns? So the initial startup will require a seed up capital, which is also a problem. And we also require skilled labor, people who are able to think, reimagine, come up with an innovation. This is also another problem. We do not have much of people who are into that particular idea. So these are the challenges. In order to address these challenges, what we have is the National Deeptech Policy, Startup Policy, which aims to address the challenges confronting deep tech startups through definite policy interventions to create a conducive ecosystem. So this policy, which is a draft as of now, is based on 4 pillars. What are those 4 pillars? Ensuring the security of India's economic future, facilitating a seamless transition to a knowledge-driven economy, bolstering national capability and sovereignty through Atmanirbharata initiative, and fostering ethical innovation as well. This is the draft that has been taken up by the government of India. So this is a draft and this is based on 4 pillars, and this is what is going to help us achieve success in the near future. Then this article also makes a reference to software as a service. What is the software as a service? SaaS is also the software as a service. This software as a service basically means that you would be able to use this particular service anywhere, anytime without requiring additional installation. For example, let's say you have the internet. You want to make use of Gmail. You make use of Gmail anywhere. It is not only at your home. You can use it at your office. You can use it anywhere. Software as a service basically means that you would have this particular software which you can use anywhere, anytime, only with the help of the internet. For example, your Zoom is also another platform. This will not require any such installation. All that you have to go is on the search engine, give a particular website's name, and you will start using it, which is what is called as software as a service. So if you have the internet connectivity, if you are able to use a particular service without installation, only with the help of the internet, that is what is called as software as a service. So this article currently goes on to say that deep tech technology in the near future can also become the software as a service, which will further enhance the technology, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says understanding the failure of Luna 25. The article here is primarily speaking about Luna 25, which happens to be a mission of Russia. What did it want to do? It wanted to achieve similar things that Chandrayaan 3 wanted to do, which is soft landing on the moon. But was it successful? No. This particular mission has failed and Russia was not able to achieve soft landing of its spacecraft on moon. Now the question is, why did Russia launch Luna 25? That is because it had its own share of objectives. One was to understand what is present on moon, what are the various things it can achieve on moon, and at the same time have a soft landing on moon as well. And it also wanted to show the world that we are not only an aggressive country, as in we are, as projected by few countries, we are not an aggressive country, but we still do have our own share of advantages when it comes to the science and technology. So it wanted to prove to the world that Russia is not an aggressive country, but it also has its own share of contributions to the domain of science and technology. So it wanted to prove other countries wrong as well. Is it in competition with India with Chandrayaan 3? No, not at all. Russia had its own share of objectives which it wanted to achieve, and it is nowhere in competition with Chandrayaan 3 or with any of the countries, except that it wanted to show the Western countries that despite the sanctions that you have imposed on Russia, we are capable enough of coming up with our own schemes and programs so that we are able to achieve the success in the field of science and technology despite the sanctions imposed by the Western powers. In fact, when you look at Russia and India, they already have couple of collaborations with each other. For example, they are also assisting India as well. Roscosmos as well as Indian Space Research Organization have been partners in Gaganyaan mission as well. They are also training our astronauts. So are two countries in competition? Not at all. In fact, all that they are trying to do is help in each other's success. What exactly happened? What was the failure with respect to Luna 25? There are two issues that we have to consider here. One is what is called as the hard landing. The other is what is called as the soft landing. What is hard landing? Let's say, for example, we have the surface of the moon, just a hypothetical example. So we have a spacecraft. The spacecraft does not softly land, which means it is not at a precision, it does not land softly, but instead it just pounces on this particular land. It starts moving in and about in a very haphazard manner, which is called as the hard fall. When it comes to the soft landing, you have a precision, you have this particular spacecraft which is being controlled, and it falls exactly in the location that it wants, in a precise area and in a way that they want. So soft landing basically means the spacecraft comes and lands in a place where they want to, in a specific spot. But in hard landing, it just falls on the land. You would not have much control on that particular spacecraft. So what was the intention of Luna 25? What is the intention of Chandrayaan 3? Is the soft landing, which means the precision and the area where they would want to land that spacecraft is being controlled, and it happens exactly as per their intentions. What happened in Luna 25 was, so when a particular spacecraft has to when a particular aircraft has to fall in a particular land, it has to be controlled. While this control failed because they did not have access in couple of places. Roscosmos could not communicate with Luna 25 when the moon was they were able to control Luna 25 only when it was directly over Russia. But then if it was in any other region, they were not able to control, which means to say Roscosmos could contact Luna and receive signals from the spacecraft only at 3 stations, 2 in Russia and 1 in Crimea. So they were able to receive the signals up from the space, up from the moon, only in those places, but from the rest of the other places they were not able to do so. Added to it, whenever there is a spacecraft which goes into the moon, you also have cooperation from couple of other countries as well. For example, in Chandrayaan, we have ISRO, which has tied up with also NASA. NASA is also helping ISRO. We also have the European Space Agency, which is also helping ISRO as well. So they also provide their inputs as well, so that it happens in a successful manner. But in Russia right now, you have sanctions imposed by the Western powers. Since they have sanctions imposed, other countries are not able to do it. In case there are any technical glitches, there is no assistance from another country, which is the major problem. And as it was entering the moon, it had to enter into a soft landing. They were not able to control the speed. Why were they not able to control the speed? That is because they were not able to get the signals. So whenever you are accelerating at a particular momentum, if you have to bring it down, you have to slowly reduce the speed as well. It's just like your it's just like driving a car where you're driving at a particular speed. If you have to bring it down, you have to reduce the gears and also hold the brake as well. Similarly, when a particular spacecraft is entering into a soft landing mode, the acceleration, the speed at which it is coming, it has to be reduced, gears have to be shifted, and only then soft landing can happen. But because it was not able to get the signals, it was not able to control the speed, what we had was a hard fall of the spacecraft, and ultimately this mission became a failure. So the idea is that it was supposed to have had a soft landing, but then it has had a hard landing and it was not able to control it, and there is a failure. We have more information which is supposed to come up, but as of now, this is all the information that we have with respect to the Roscosmos. Now let's look into the next article. This article says a strong case to restore section 8 of 4 of the Representation of the People's Act. We have discussed about this article in our last few CNAs, where I did have an elaborate discussion with respect to Mr. Rahul Gandhi's disqualification. Mr. Rahul Gandhi's disqualification was with respect to conviction that was made by the trial court upheld by the High Court of Gujarat. What exactly this article is speaking is with respect to one of the landmark judgments delivered by the Lily Thomas case. So the Lily Thomas Works Union of India is a landmark judgment that was delivered in 2013. We've already discussed it, but let me give you a brief analysis of what the author is trying to say. Prior to 2013, what was happening? Let's say there is an MP or an MLA. this person is involved in a heinous offense. He might have committed a rape. So what would happen? He would be imposed with a penalty. So he would also be convicted that the charges are proved and it is so and so person who's convicted for a particular crime. So when he is convicted, if the conviction is for more than 2 years, then such a person will be immediately be disqualified as per the Representation of the People's Act of 1951. So if a person is convicted and if the imprisonment is for more than 2 years, this person will be immediately be disqualified. But prior to 2013, this person, let's say if he is convicted in the Sessions Court, he can go to the High Court. If he is convicted in the High Court, he can also go to the Supreme Court as well. So he would have a 3-month window, which means to say today is the conviction that has happened in the Sessions Court. Within the next 3 months, he would be able to go on an appeal in the High Court. Let's say the High Court has given him a conviction and a sentencing. Within 3 months, he may also go to the Supreme Court for an appeal. So during this appeal process, when it is further being investigated by a higher court, this person will not be disqualified, which means to say that when he is convicted, he goes to the trial court, he goes to the Session Court. From the Session Court, he goes to the High Court. So during this period, from when he goes to the Session Court up until the High Court, if the process goes on, the investigation goes on in the High Court, if it is yet not proved in the High Court, for that period, he will not be disqualified. This was prior to 2013. But what happened in 2013 with the landmark judgment of Lily Thomas case? A person, in case he is an MP or an MLA, if he is convicted by the trial court, the Session Court or the High Court, immediately he is disqualified. So even if he goes for an appeal, this person will be disqualified. So the article goes on to say that this section of 804, which is deleted, which means to say that the person is convicted, immediately after his conviction he will be disqualified. This has to be rethought of, because there have been ample number of cases where there are issues with respect to this understanding of section 8 of 3, because a person might not have committed a crime. For example, even in the present situation of Rahul Gandhi, it is not an heinous offense, it is a non-cognizable offense, which is what the Supreme Court has also reiterated, that if it is anything less than 2 years, even if it is 1 day less than 2 years, it is not an offense, which means to say that it is not an offense for disqualification. And since it is a non-cognizable offenses, if such is the issue, this section will have to be reconsidered, says the author. So if it is not a heinous offense, if it is such non-cognizable offenses, the Supreme Court, the law has to be rethought of, says this article. So conviction per se for such issues should not disqualify the members of the parliament or the members of the legislative assembly, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Bharat NCAP. What does it stand for? It stands for New Car Assessment Program. This is modeled on the program that is similar to what is happening at the international circuits, called as the Global New Car Assessment Program, which is a project of Towards Zero Foundation. What is it? Let's say, for example, there is a car, the car goes and then it hits something, there is a crash of the car that happens. What is the safety of this car? So a rating has to be given from 1 to 5, whether this car has the crash detection, how good is the car when the crash happens, is what is this article all about. So basically the Bharat NCAP is one of the initiatives taken by the government of India to give a rating to the cars when a crash happens. How does this work? Basically, there are 3 important issues that we have to consider. One is with respect to forward. Let's say, for example, there is a car which is moving in a particular direction and it goes and hits another car in the forward direction. So if it is hitting the car in the forward direction, that will be taken into consideration. What if there are 2 cars which are going like this in the forward direction, but then they hit on the sideways? So the front phase will be taken into consideration, the sideways crash will be taken into consideration, and also the pole side impact. What if a car goes and hits a pole and there is crash and there are people inside it? all of it will be considered as per the NCAP. So one, there is a car, there is another car that is coming, or there is another vehicle that is coming. So there is a frontal impact, then there is sideways impact, and there is impact with respect to the pole. All this will be taken into the picture and ultimately a rating will be provided. This will be based on 3 parameters. One is the adult occupant protection, which is when an adult is present within the car. Then there is child occupant protection, and what are the safety assistance technologies that are present. On the basis of these 3 parameters, a rating would be given. 1 would be less and 5 would be the best when it comes to the car crash detection. And how will it work? Let's say there is a particular manufacturing company. The car manufacturing company will have to make an application to this particular organization, and after an application is made, you would have the person from the government who would come up to this manufacturing place and they would see whether the car is able to meet the established principles, and on the basis of the fixed criterion they would be given a rating of 1 to 5. As of now, this is voluntary, but for the EVs it is yet not compulsory. So in the near futures, EV will also be added, that is electric vehicles will also be added in the near future, but as of now EVs are not considered. Basically, India did not have its own program, so in order to meet the global pattern, global idea, we also have a similar idea that has been implemented by the government of India. So once this particular crash detection happens, it will be sent to the Bharat NCAP standing committee, and ultimately it will be published on its website. The CIRT will issue a certificate for that car. So what is the advantage? In case people are picking a car of a particular company, they also want to compare about the crash detection as well. On the basis of this star rating, they would be able to decide whether they can take this particular product or not on the basis of the star rating. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. So if you're liking these initiatives, please do like, comment, and also share it with your fellow aspirants. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.